Hi everybody. Today we're going to go over how to make hills. These are hills that are usually about 3 to 4 inches tall. They're line of sight blocking. They don't provide cover, but they do block line of sight. So we find them really effective at War Games Con. We've got hundreds of them, and we'll build these, and then we'll stack them up and counter stack them, and they make nice formations. They can block tanks. So I've seen them stack them up so that we can even hide like a Bane blade even. So basically what you want to do is you'll cut out your base formation, and I like to draw it with an X-Acto or with a Sharpie first. And you just want to have kind of a nice curve, some curves to it, and come back around. You don't really want it to be square. You want it kind of roundish. Although I have seen some square hills. We even have some. I prefer them rounded, like I said. But you can just kind of break this out once it's cut. Okay. And so once the base level's done, what I'll do is take it and put it on top of the next piece. And I'll just cut the same shape out, basically. Okay. So once this is together, what I would do with this is make a third level, a third one here. So let's get that done. Because this is going to be a 3-inch hill. And then we're going to come over here. Okay. And then you'll glue these together. And you'll want to come in with a Wonder Cutter on the hills especially. Or you can get a foam cutter at the lumber stores. They make it's called an insulation cutter. And it's kind of like a cross between a bread knife and a saw. So you can come in, and after this is glued together, you want to glue it together. Like I said, I like to use toothpicks or some dowel rods in there to help hold everything together. And then once it's all together, you can come in with the cutter and you can smooth all these edges out. You kind of taper the edge, maybe put some serrations in the top here. Now, once these are done, usually what I'll do, I've been talking about the sand mix that we do. I like to use a real fine sand. So normally I would glue these together, and while they're drying, I'd mix up my sand. You can get this in different colors. I got the pink because it's pretty. And then I'll mix in some medium ballast. This gives it a little texture. And you can shake it up. And I'll show you how this looks once it's out. I'm just going to do a little sample here. Come out with some Elmer's glue and just spread it all around. Okay. Now I like to come back in with a brush and spread that that glue, get a nice even coat everywhere. I usually keep a cup of water around, and I'll dip the brush in. If you dip the brush in water, it helps keep the glue from drying really fast, but I'm going to be working really fast here, so I don't think it'll be a problem. All right, so the glue's on there nice and even. Let's shake this up a little bit and just kind of sprinkle it out. The heavier's coming out, so there we go. That's a little better. And we just want to get a nice even coat on there. I like to do this over a box usually because it kind of catches the excess. I'm making a mess here, but I usually do it inside a box, so I can take the box top of one of the models or something and put the piece in there. I'll usually pat it down a little bit, let it get into the glue really well, and then take it and shake it. Just shake it off. And see, that gives you a nice kind of uneven texture. You can even come back in and put some static grass and mix some static grass in there or some tufts. We put some dirt on the top of this hill, and or what's going to be a hill eventually because it's going to stack up here. But just for demonstration purposes, we're going to show you how I usually paint a hill. I use the folk art paint a lot just because it's cheap and it does the job. For this one, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spray some dirt on, some on here. I'm going to put it on directly onto the terrain like this. Try not to make a mess. I've been making messes all day. There it goes. All right, so I'm getting a little bit out there. And these are just cheap brushes, so no biggie. And you just want to get an even spread. I like this kind of chocolate color for the base. Normally I would water this down a little bit. I'm trying to stay away from that though because this glue is still a little wet and I don't want the dirt coming loose. So I'm just going to kind of spread it around without diluting. Like I said, I normally dip my brush in the water to help spread it and thin the paint a little bit. But instead, I'm going to make one thick coat, kind of like the new contrast paints. And the way this is going, I may have to spread it with some water, maybe. Okay. And you just want a nice even coat on here. Spread your paint out a little bit so it'll dry faster. You don't want it too thick, but you want it to give a nice even coat and to cover everything. I'm not going to hit this area too hard because it looks like it's starting to flake off a little bit. Okay. We kind of rushed this a little bit. The glue's not completely dry yet. So I think I'm going to stop right here. But just imagine doing the same thing out to the rest of the terrain. Okay, everybody, it looks like the paint's pretty dry. It may be a little tacky, but we're going to go ahead and dive right in. I've got some Ushabti bone I'm going to use to kind of give it a sandy color because we're kind of going for a desert look. I like to keep a pad when I'm dry brushing. I keep a pad next to me to just kind of unload the brush, and that way when I'm dry brushing here, it kind of, see, it's just barely picking up, and that's kind of what I want it to do. Giving it a light dry brush, and hitting it a little bit more. See, it's picking up that texture, both the fine texture and the medium texture in there. And we can keep going, and we'll, as we put more coats, it'll get darker and darker and more sandy looking. So I'm hitting it, unloading the brush. But once you're done with this, you can put some static grass or tufts of grass or whatever and blend it in. This would be a good spot to put in your grass. Paint this green maybe around here. Put in some static grass on top, and then put the trees in here, and then give it a nice kind of a wooded hill look. Getting a little darker, a little more sandy look to it. Now, if you want a true sand look, you can start off with a medium tan and build up from there. This particular look, we wanted kind of a mud underneath look. So that's what I went with. And just giving a nice back and forth stroke there. Kind of giving it in one direction. And picking up all that texture. And some of this dirt's flaking off. That's going to happen. You're going to get that. It's no big deal. All right, let's put a couple more coats on it and unload that brush a little bit. Let's get some more. There you go. And that's pretty much it. Gives you a nice kind of a sandy look with some dark undertones. This keeps you from having to do any kind of wash on it. Now, if you wanted to do more of a sandy look, like I said, you could use a medium tan and then go over it with the lighter tan or like a bleach bone, and then maybe put some Agrax on top and come back in with the bleach bone as a final coat. But for the purposes of doing something quick, fast, cheap, this is the way to go. That's it. That's how you build a cheap hill. And thanks for watching.